Multiply difference of squares. Okay, you have two binomials and you just want to multiply these together. You got a x plus 5. You have a x minus 5. Again, we'll do it the same way. First, last, and we'll go ahead and we'll do double smiles. So starting with the first ones, the x's here. So I'm going to take the first term, and they're both x's, so I'm going to take x times x, so that's x to the second. Okay, now we're going to do the first smile. The first smile is 5x. The second smile is a negative 5x. So we'll come over here and we'll write this as a positive 5x. That was your inside. Negative 5x was your outside. Last, we'll finish it up. We'll take 5 times 5 is 25. But right there is a negative sign. So we're going to say it's a negative 25. So now we're going to say x to the second. Notice we're going to bring those two terms together because they're both x's. So basically you have 5 minus 5. 5 minus 5 is 0. So the middle terms here, the x's, they cancel out. So they disappear. So really only I have left is x to the second minus 25. So x to the second minus 25. So we'll type in the x. We'll press the AB key. This is 2. We'll press space bar. We'll go minus, and we'll go 25. Okay, now on this problem, a couple things on this problem. A thing to clue you in that the middle term is going to be 0. If you look at the original problem, all the parentheses are basically the same. They both contain an x, and then the last terms are both 5s. But what's unique about this is that the last term, one number is a positive 5, the other number is a negative 5. So if your first terms are the same, in this case here the x's are the same, and your last terms are opposite numbers, you're going to lose the middle term. So kind of keep that in mind when you're doing these problems. Okay, let's go to the next problem. Now, this problem right here is actually written backwards. It's not in standard form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the x and then put down the plus 4. I'm going to start with the x in the second parentheses, but this is going to be a negative x, and then that's a plus 4. So now I want to go ahead and write this as my first, my last, my first, and my last. Because remember, we always go with the letters in front and then we work our ways down to the actual single numbers here. So I'm going to take the x's here, so this is a positive x and this is a negative x, and then let me write in my double smiles here too. So that's my inside smile, and that's my outside smile. So right here I have an x and an x. That's x to the second, but there's going to be a negative sign in front of it. Because you can ignore the negative sign for now, you can just simply go x and x. Now if that does bother you, you could write these as a 1 and this is a negative 1, and then you could simply say negative 1 here if you want. So if you want to say negative 1x to the second, that's fine. So the middle term here is going to be 4 times a negative 1. Well, that's a negative 4 followed by x. My outside term is going to be 4x. It's going to be a positive 4 times a positive 1, and that's going to be a positive 4x. So I got a negative 4x plus a positive 4x. Now I want to multiply here. So 4 times 4 is a positive 16. So now I could say, you know, negative 1x to the second. Notice right here they're going to cancel because you have a negative 4 plus 4, and that's 0. So these will cancel, and then you finish up with the plus 16. Now you can write it like this with the negative 1 in front if you want, or if you want to just drop the negative 1, you could simply say this as well. Either one of these forms will work. So, you know, a lot of times people drop the 1 there and just write as a negative, but you can still write as a negative, and Khan Academy will still accept it. So we go negative 1, let's say x, AB key, let's go 2 spacebar. Now we have a plus sign, and then let's go 16. And again, the rule, you know, I talked about before was if the first terms are the same, they're both 4s, the second terms are opposite. You know, you got a negative x and you got a positive x. That's telling you that you're going to lose a middle term here. But remember, I always write my parentheses before I get started, always write it in standard form. So standard form, you always want to lead with the letter and finish up with the number, and the number is called the constant. So always start with the letter and finish up with the constant. As for my steps are the same, you know, first, last, and then the double smiles. So now we'll go to the next question. Now the next question, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rewrite this as 6x plus 1. So that is my first parentheses. Then my second parenthesis is going to be a negative 6x. And then, you know, if I wrote it like this and say negative 6x and a positive 1, there is no sign there, so we know it's going to be a plus 1. This is your first, this is your last. Over here, this is your first, this is your last. And then we go with the double smiles. So we're going to start off with the 6x and the negative 6x. So 6 times 6 is 36. There is a negative sign, so it's a negative 6. We both have a letter x there, so we're just going to say x to the second. Now as for my double smiles here, let's take a look at that. My inside smile is a negative 6x. My outside smile is a positive 6x. So I'll say negative 6x plus 6x. Now what I'll do is I'll finish up with the last terms here. So this is a positive 1, and this is a positive 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. There is no sign there is no sign here, so we're going to write this as a plus sign. So we're going to say negative 36 x to the second, and now we're going to bring our middle terms together. So this is a negative 6 plus 6. Well, we know that's 0. Since that's 0, these can drop out. So this leaves me with the negative 36 x to the second plus 1. So we're going to say negative sign. We're going to type in the 36. We're going to put down the x. We're going to press the AB key. We're going to put down the 2. We're going to go space bar. Then we're going to go plus 1. So we'll check this. And again, notice that if we look at the original, the first terms are the same. They're both 1s, and then the second part, there's a positive 6x and there's a negative 6x. So again, you know, if the first part's the same, that's first part, we're talking about the first term is the same, and the last terms are opposite each other, then you're going to lose the middle term. So kind of be alert to that. The problem itself will work its way out, but just kind of be aware that that's going to possibly happen. Okay, let's take a look at the next problem. Now this one, unlike the other two, I don't have to rewrite this. This is already in standard form. So we have the 5x plus 1, and then we have the 5x minus 1. So this is my first, this is my last, this is my first, and this is my last. So we're going to take the 5x and the 5x. Well, 5 times 5 is 25. to the second. My middle term, 1 times 5x is 5x. 5x times a negative 1 is a negative 5x. So I got the 5x and then I got the minus 5x. So here's my plus. Now I want to finish. This is a positive 1 and this is a negative 1. So 1 times a negative 1 is a negative 1. So I'll say 25x to the second. Now notice right here the middle terms, they're both x's. So I got a positive 5 minus 5. So I get a 0. So we can just cross these out. You don't have to write down anything for the x's. You can skip that term and just simply say 25x to the second minus 1. So we'll press in 25 x AB key 2 spacebar. We press minus and we go 1. And again, we look at the beginning. The first terms are the same. The last terms are opposite. We got a positive 1 and a negative 1. So that kind of tells us that ahead of time that we're probably going to lose the middle term. So the middle term, we expect the x's to fall out in this case here, which they did.